Obama campaigning tonight for Vice President Kamala Harris in Tucson, Arizona, and he's revising his pitch to young men.
I've noticed this especially with some men who think Trump's behavior, the bullying and the putting people down and acting all, pretend tough guy, that somehow that's a sign of strength. I am here to tell you that is not what real strength is. Never has been. Real strength is about working hard and carrying a heavy load without complaining. Real strength is about taking responsibility for your actions and telling the truth even when it's inconvenient. Real strength is about helping people who need it and standing up for those who can't always stand up for themselves. That's what we should want for our daughters and our sons. That's what I want to see in the President of the United States of America.
Now that's a bit different than what happened last week when Obama was accused of scolding young black men for even thinking about not supporting Harris, something he was widely criticized for. But all this attention on young men, it is very significant. Currently, Harris is trailing Trump among young men, and Trump is taking advantage. Today, returning to a familiar refrain that men are under siege, even saying this on Fox.
We're under attack for everything.
We are. Well, actually, manhood is
Yes.
under attack.
Well, actually, no, it's not. Let's discuss all this with Liam Donovan, Van Jones, and LZ Granderson. Van, to begin with you, today's pitch from Obama to male voters. You and I talked, I think, a week ago today, frankly, about your views on his last speech. Does this land better for you than what you heard before?
It does for me. Obama is an example of the kind of man, I don't care who you are, if your daughter brought him home, you would be proud. If that were your mentor, if that were your brother, your father, your coworker, he is a strong, good man, a good, strong man. The idea that that's not welcome in the Democratic Party is ridiculous because there he is. And so I do think that that's Obama at his best. When he gets that tone in his voice, it's just riveting. I also think that there's some masculinist stuff going on the Trump side that I think it's been very destructive in the black community, and I think we need to get away from that type of thing.
Well, LZ, he was being expansive, of course, on this idea of masculinity, and Trump has consistently talked about masculinity being under attack, the idea of people have conflated the topic of toxic masculinity with gender identity and not bridging any gaps or appreciating any nuance between how it's articulated in any way. James Carville had some thoughts, by the way, on the young men issue, telling the New York Times his concerns about the Democratic Party's message, saying, "A suspicion of mine is that there are too many preachy females. Don't drink beer. Don't watch football. Don't eat hamburgers. This is not good for you. The message is too feminine. Everything you're doing is destroying the planet. You got to eat your peas." He had a lot of, he had a lot of blowback for saying that, of course, a lot of blowback. That was back, I think, in March of earlier this year. Is that a perception, though, that has taken hold?
Well, first and foremost, I'm not a Democrat, so I can't speak to the party. But as an observer, as someone who has covered politics for 25 years or so, I can say that what I've witnessed, Laura, has been a consistent effort on the Republican side to play up this ideology of what it means to be a man from a very physical perspective. The Rambo, the Terminator, that imagery, all the guns, all of those things are sort of, undergirding this notion that Republicans have embraced about what it means to be a man. And at the same time, you look at the Democrats and the progressive side of things, and they're really emphasizing things such as compassion, being more in tune to your humanity, things such as caring about the planet. And so I can see why, someone who's caught in the middle and trying to find where they may, rest, could be conflicting for them. But I don't think any of this conversation should be in any way targeted towards the vice president. This is a conversation that has been happening long before she was in office. And so while I recognize the fact that, we want to turn to the polls and look at where she may need to be looking for votes, I think characterizing this conversation as if she has a problem with young voters, as if the Democrats have been hemorrhaging male voters for decades, I think is mischaracterizing this conversation entirely.
You're right to think about, and I'm going to turn you on this, Liam, because this campaign is, 70-something days old with her at the top of the ticket. Clearly the conversations about masculinity have far predated that. And yet, this idea of courting younger men was on full display at the RNC. I mean, you had people like Hulk Hogan ripping off his shirt at the RNC. You had Dana White, obviously. Dana White from the, it was with a primetime speech as well from the UFC. You have Trump doing a whole lot of podcasts that have a demographic base that is in tune with the very young men they want to talk to. Is this an effective strategy for Trump to win, or is it just an effective strategy to have this be a part of the conversation?
I'll say this, it's a logical strategy if you think about who he has access to, who he has probably written off at this point. I think the attitudes towards Trump with women voters, particularly college-educated females, that's a sunk cost. So he needs to go and make up for that somewhere. So the logic makes sense. This is a huge audience. If you think about these podcasts, these are massive audiences on the one hand. They're underserved markets, both from mass media and by politics and politicians. Their messages and their attitudes sort of line up with what Donald Trump's peddling, the populism, the anti-establishment notes. So that makes perfect sense. The question is the effectiveness, and that comes down to the question of whether they can get them to turn out and vote. So they're banking a lot on these infrequent voters coming out to the polls. This is as much about, it's a gender element, but it's a generational element. The young men piece of this is really key, and it transcends race as well. I mean, you're talking, the reason that Kamala Harris, and again, talking about the podcast audience and whatnot, the reason that Kamala's going, whether it's with Charlemagne, whether it's frankly going on with Call Her Daddy, these are balkanized audiences in lots of different places. Young voters in general are getting their media and getting their information from other places. So you need to go to where they are. In this case, Donald Trump needs to get them to turn out. And that's the open question that we don't know until Election Day.
That's a good point to think about how to make up for whatever perceived deficit you have. Are you writing off that you're not going to get this group, so you're going to bulk up this one? And will they actually turn out? I mean, then, former President Barack Obama is about to cross this country for Harris. Next weekend, former First Lady Michelle Obama will join her. Why this many appearances, though, just 18 days before the election? Is it too late, or is this right on time?
No, it's right on time. Look, these are nuclear weapons, and when you're talking about Michelle Obama, I mean, if you had a hard time getting in and out of the rally today, wait till Michelle Obama steps onto the stage. Wait till she steps onto the playing field. I mean, so you don't want to use all your best stuff early. You got a lot of people who are going to want to have a sense of momentum. They're going to want to have a sense that they're joining something right here at the end. So I don't think that you wanted to have Michelle Obama out there every day. I think you want to bring her in for the close. She is the closer. Don't forget, even during the 2008 campaign, everybody called her the closer. Obama would come in, he'd say his stuff. Then they bring Michelle in, and she said, "Look, y'all need to vote. You need to do." And yes, ma'am. And so I'm excited. I don't think it's too late at all. I'm looking forward to seeing what she does. And again, it will be wall-to-wall coverage. It will, when Michelle Obama steps onto the stage, it will be wall-to-wall coverage.
Well, 18 days to go. That's going to fly by, frankly. Everyone, thank you so much. Nice to see you all.